FPL Game Week 25 is here, and there are some huge calls to make on both captaincy and transfers. And with my long-term plans starting to pay off, ripping it up seems like a strange thing to do. But in FPL, we always have to be adaptable in the search for those precious points and the glorious green arrows. So for me, all options are always on the table, including a return to those hit-taking ways, the ones which have cost me so dearly in the past. But sometimes in this game we have to take the chance, especially when the opportunity to make up ground diminishes by the game week. But before we get into game week 25 and the big dilemmas playing on my heart, first let's have a quick look at game week 24, and it was a good fight back for me. You know, game week 23 I had that absolute disaster, 12.6 million rank in the world in a game of 12.8 million people. It was perhaps the worst game week I have ever had. Maybe the worst game week any FPL content creator has ever had, ever. But the question was, could I bounce back? The difficulty was doing so without ripping up the plan, without losing my head. And I did well. You know, I got 73 points, a game week rank of 861,000. It wasn't spectacular. I saw people do much better. I saw people climb much higher up the rankings. But a 400k green arrow is always a nice thing, especially after such a devastating game week the week before. Now, the same problems remain in the team. You see Henderson again did nothing. Thiago again, he looks like a bit of a busted flush at this moment. That reactionary transfer, to sell Voltemada for Thiago after the Voltemada blank a few weeks back, is looking like a bit of a busted flush, like I've just said, like a poor decision. And I mean, this is going to factor into my Game Week 25 team. Do I address that? Do I take a chance and get rid of Thiago again? I'm not sure, and we'll talk it through. Tarkowski, only 2 points. You know, when you get these big DEFCON daddies in and then they don't get the DEFCONs, it is a bit frustrating, but you can't expect him to do the business every time. And he has had a great run for me, and a great run in general. So I'm not too worried about Tarkowski. We can forgive a game week of underperformance. Garner, on the other hand, you know, I started Garner over Tarkowski the week before when Tarkowski got 8 points. But this is why, because I feel Garner is probably more secure for the DEFCONs, and if Everton do concede, then Garner can outscore Tarkowski just on the DEFCON. If they both get DEFCONs, but they concede 2 goals, and Tarkowski can only get 3 points, whereas Garner can get 4. Now, obviously, that didn't apply this week, but that was the thinking there. But apart from that, it's a very good week. Timber, 5 points, could have been more. Surely the attacking returns are coming. Gabriel, 8 points. Ekitike, of course, got the big score, and it's always nice when your FPL team gets points. It's never nice when it's at the expense of your beloved team, and it hurts. It hurt to get those points, and yes, there were differential points, and yes, they gave me an edge over the field, and I'm always grateful for that, but it's not nice. It would have been nice if it had come somewhere else, if Garner had got those points. You know, Garner 17 points, Ekitike 2, would have ended up with the same score. It just wouldn't have hurt so much. And I'm going to have to think about this with Newcastle, because their away form is a big concern, and it's not going to get better. But we'll get into that in my Game Week 25 when we get onto the team. The other thing, of course, was Mukiele bringing home the points. 159 points now for the Bruno Guimaraes Mukiele home rotation. Barukiele, as I call it, second only to Haaland. And, you know, that is going really well. I've finally trusted it, and it is paying off. But again, this is going to factor in to my Game Week 25 team. The only real issue I had in Game Week 24 was having no Chelsea. And, you know, I did that big video discussing Cole Palmer, how the world of Cole Palmer is surrounded by ifs. And if he plays, if he stays fit, if he does this, if he does that. Well, he played 90 minutes and he did nothing. And he didn't even look good. So that wasn't you know, if I'd have taken the hit to switch Ekitike to Palmer, it would have been a true FPL nightmare. But we kept our head, we kept calm, and it all paid off. I keep saying we, when obviously I mean me, but this is the YouTuber tick that we all fall into, in a sense, to engender that kind of community, the kind of connection with the audience we all strive for, and one I value very highly. And yeah, I mean, the only real problem was I have no Chelsea, and that was a conscious choice to go against Chelsea. And Enzo Fernandez gets 8 points, and that's fine because obviously I started Garner. He got 4 points, and there is a 4-point difference there. But if you value a transfer at 4 points, then that breaks even. It's not the end of the world. Joao Pedro, you know, a big 10-pointer off the bench, and I mean, that game week 24 encapsulates the problem and the glory of Joao Pedro in that he can get you these big points, but he got them off the bench. He was left out of the starting 11, and, you know, I mean, I can imagine owners went through the entire roller coaster of emotions at the weekend. And yeah, Ekitike outscored Joao Pedro, so that worked out quite nicely for me. Although the argument could be made, I could have had him instead of Igor Thiago, and we'll get into that as well. Now, it was a big victory for me in game week 24. It would have been easy to rip up the plan after that 12.6 million rank, but I stuck with it and I was rewarded, and, you know, that's always nice in this game. And you'd think I'd learned the lesson. You'd think I'd learn the lesson to stick with the plan, but I've got my head is working, my mind is ticking over, and I am coming up with these alternatives. And it's not entirely my own fault. Now, if we look at the team as it stands, Henderson in goal against Brighton, that's fine. Timber and Gabriel against Sunderland, grand. Tarkowski against Fulham, grand. Lewis Hall against Brentford could be a problem. We'll get into that in a minute. Bruno Guimaraes, of course, the big issue. At home to Brentford as it stands in the team. Will he stay there? That's what we're going to talk about. Garner against Fulham, fine. Bruno Fernandes currently got the armband for my team against Spurs. That's fine as well. Declan Rice against Sunderland. Haaland and Ekitike against each other. That could go either way, really, but I fancy goals for both of them. The big concern, of course, Igor Thiago on the bench against my beloved Newcastle. But will he stay there? That is the question that we're going to get into very shortly. And in fact, so shortly, we're going to get into it in a moment. Sorry, I'm doing this off the fly. This is why I used to script all my videos, because sometimes you can get a little bit rambly when you're thinking, and my wife's home, she was out for a coffee with her family, she's back home, she's upstairs. Part of me's thinking she can overhear this, and I'm getting a bit worried. I'm a bit shy, but what can you do? So the first thing I want to talk about is captaincy. I do think Bruno Fernandes is the best option. He's got the roots to points. He's playing Spurs. They're in disarray. He's got 33 points in his last 3 home games. He looks liberated. And I just fancy that to continue. I fancy Bruno Fernandes to get the most points in the game week and to be the game week's MVP. I do think there are other good options. Gabriel, I think, is a great option. Home to Sunderland. Sunderland, no great shakes on the road for all of their formidable form at the Stadium of Light. So I do think the clean sheet is almost a lock for Arsenal. And if that is the case, can Gabriel get the DEFCONs? Can he get the bonus points? You know, if Gabriel gets 3 bonus in the DEFCONs, that's 11 points in a clean sheet. Can he get an attacking return? If he gets to goal, that's 17 points. Great captaincy option, and that's possible. But Sunderland did give Arsenal a fright earlier in the season, so they've got nothing to fear themselves. I am tempted by Ekitike, and the reason is he looks so good against Newcastle, and Ekitike's strengths exploit Man City's weaknesses. Man City conceded a lot of goals at that right wing, that right back position, which Ekitike likes to drift into. We saw him devastate Newcastle from that position. And, he's in form. He looks exciting. He's big. He's powerful. Man City are not defensively sound, even against Newcastle in the Cup. Newcastle, really, for all they took a hiding over the two legs, really, they could have made it 5-5 if they could have finished the chances. They actually got more big chances than Man City over the two legs, which is a bit worrying when you think about how poor Newcastle were. So I think Ekitike, a week's rest when Man City have played in midweek at Anfield, the last game of the game week, which is always appealing to me, I think Ekitike is the gambler's choice. I think if I am feeling really brave, I might go with Ekitike, but I probably won't, because I think Fernandes, even now, will be enough of a differential as captain to get me up them ranks if he does well. Haaland, not a consideration for me this week. I'm not even convinced he starts because Marmoush is looking so good. He probably does, but that slight doubt in a week where there are such good options like Fernandes, like Gabriel, like Ekitike, Semenyo, if you own him, and I'm considering bringing him in. He's a great option as well. Liverpool concede a lot from that left-back position. Even Anthony Gordon in open play scored from that part of the penalty area against Liverpool, first open play goal in the league in over a year. And, of course, Semenyo scored twice at Anfield earlier in the season for Bournemouth. So I like Semenyo as an option, and I might be bringing him in. There's a lot to talk about, so let's get into it. The big issue is Bruno Guimaraes and what to do with him. And I want to stick with him. I do, because I love the bloke. He is everything you would want a Newcastle player to be. He is everything every football fan wants their players to be. The passion, the drive, the decisiveness, the impact he has on games, the passion he has for the club. I love the bloke, and I want to give him every chance. But that's 3 games he's missed now. Is that ankle injury more serious than we are being led to believe it could well be? Now, what to do with him? If I keep him, which I could do because it's not the end of the world, if I keep him, it means I get Igor Thiago off the bench against Newcastle, a Newcastle team who very rarely win without Guimaraes over the last 4 years. Fair enough, we beat Arsenal in the Cup 2-0 without him, but that was very much the exception. So if Bruno's out, and this Newcastle team do concede goals, and the load keeps building on Newcastle, the injuries keep mounting, it's a perfect storm for Thiago to run wild at St James's Park at the weekend. And if I go with Bruno, he doesn't play, Thiago comes off my bench, it means I've got 3 transfers in Gameweek 26, which is, none of that is a disaster. It might not be optimal, it might not be the best thing I could do, but it's not a disaster. And 3 free transfers means I stick to the plan. It means I get those little bragging rights. It helps change my mindset into potentially a more elite manager, the manager I need to be if I want to challenge in the upper echelons of the overall ranks next season, if I want to get back into it this season. So maybe sticking with the plan when it's tough is the best thing for my long-term FPL development. I don't know, because it's not the way I play the game. Now, I do have options. I'm not going into this stupidly. I'm not going into it willy-nilly. I could use 1 transfer. And this actually does stick to my plan because I had that 1 spare transfer factored into the plan for emergency. And Guimaraes being out would be an emergency for me, especially when you consider my sub-options. Beyond Thiago are Mukiele against Arsenal and Longstaff against Forest. Like Longstaff, he's not really a consideration. So it's Mukiele against Arsenal away. And if Timber is rested, he wasn't in training today, so if he is rested, Mukiele coming in against Arsenal is not ideal. You would rather Thiago come in for Timber than Mukiele this week. So I could make the one transfer and still stick to the plan. And if I do use one transfer, then there are some great replacements. I've already talked about Semenyo. He's in great form. He looks fantastic. He's a top scoring midfielder. And in game week 27, I think he's perhaps the best captaincy option against Newcastle. My man Kanji from the Pubcast, he is very hot on Cole Palmer for game week 27 against Burnley. Thinks he's the best captain. But by then, by game week 27, Newcastle will have played Spurs away, they'll have played Villa away, and they will be coming back from Azerbaijan against Qarabag in the week to play a rested Man City at home, and Man City always destroy us. They've just destroyed us last night. Semenyo looked great. I think he got an assist, maybe two, can't remember. And I think he's a great option against Newcastle. You know, Lewis Hall, will he even be fit? You know, he's not. He's being flogged. He's back from injury and he's being flogged. Newcastle we're at the bare bones. So it might even be Dan Burn at left back against Semenyo. And however you look at it, he's a great option. So, you know, and it's not just that game week 27. He's got great fixtures, including this week against Liverpool. Like I said, maybe he's a good captaincy option this week as well. The obvious one, of course, Enzo Fernandez. He's got 3 great games to come, possible penalty share. And watched the highlights from the other night. He was taking corners, he was shooting from everywhere, and he is that easy avenue out in game week 28 to Kevin Schade or Dango Ouattara. Like, I said the other day, I don't really get Enzo Fernandez. Well, I watched those highlights and I do get him now. He's the Argentinian Jonjo Shelvey. And that is not a bad thing because Jonjo Shelvey, he loved a long-range goal like Enzo. He was on the set pieces, if not elite at them. He liked getting forward. He could play deep. Jonjo Fernandez, he's a good option. He frees up money as well. And it does limit that risk on the elite managers, the engaged managers, while also Enzo, he's not the highest owned player, so it is an advantage over the field. I would be remiss to dismiss it at this stage. Morgan Rogers, another good option. You know, he's got Bournemouth, Brighton, Leeds and Wolves, and he again has quite a high expected ownership, so that threat would be limited. But I mean, he's not in the best form, Morgan Rogers. What is it, two returns in 6 games or something? So I'm not set on Rogers. I might even end up going all season without him. Elliot Anderson is one I'm looking at. You know, he frees up a lot of funds. He is super consistent. And I read, was it Late Riser, shared the tweet about him, Elliot Anderson outscoring Semenyo in the last 6 games, despite Semenyo getting 3 goals and an assist, and Elliot Anderson only getting 1 assist. You know, that is the sort of consistency. It might not be your mama's FPL, but it's the FPL the way it is now. It might not be the way we want the game to be, but we have to play the ball as it lies. We have to take the shot off Bigfoot's fat foot sometimes in this game. And Elliot Anderson, you know, he's got Leeds and then he's got Wolves. They're good games. He could even get an attacking return, and then Elliot Anderson with an attacking return is a monster haul. I could even get him in for Longstaff. And I've got the money to do that, and I could keep Guimaraes if I really wanted. Maybe that's the best option. And having him as that 8th attacker, you know, him and Garner, the DEFCON daddies, always an option to come off my bench if needed, if I feel like it's a game week to maintain consistency rather than go on the attack. I don't know, that's a possibility. Illiman and Dye, he's a good option. He's on penalties. He also frees up funds. The problem I have with that is I have Garner and I don't really want an Everton double up in attack. I don't think that is a sensible move by any stretch of the imagination. So, I could have gotten Dye. I got Garner. I've made my choice. I've made my bed, and I am going to lie in it very nicely. And I could do with a good sleep sometime. The problem is I'm on holiday from work, and I just enjoy staying up late. I stay up late all the time, and I'm looking forward to getting back to work so I can actually get some sleep. Funny, like. Another option, and I've thought these options through. Harvey Barnes. He's not the best option, I know that, but sometimes you have to play on your heart. Harvey Barnes keeps that Mukiele and Newcastle home rotation alive. He is Newcastle's top scorer this season. He always looks dangerous. And now Gordon is injured. Harvey Barnes is surely nailed with Alanga and Murphy fighting for the right wing spot. So he's maybe not as daft an option as he first appears, although the issues are there. The fixture pile up. Nothing in it is great. And, I just don't think I'll go there, even if I kind of want to. Ismail Assar, he is a good option as well. And I'm a bit torn on him because every time I get Ismail Assar, he seems to get injured. Like, Sarr seems to bring me more problems than solutions. And, part of why my season's gone so badly is I wildcarded in game week 3 because of the Gordon red card and the Palmer and Saka injuries. And I brought in Ismail Assar, and then he went and got injured straight away. But I can't let that sort of history impede my decision-making process today. We have to play the ball as it lies. And Ismail Assar, he's got Brighton, Burnley, Wolves, Man United, Spurs and Leeds as his next 6 fixtures. That is a great run. That is a great run of games. Yes, he blanks in game week 31, but it is an easy switch to Harry Wilson that week, who plays Burnley. So that looks really nice. Ismail Assar's probably on penalties. Again, it's another option, another route to points. And with Mateta out, he's going to assume greater importance in that team. Yes, Palace have their issues, but they've only really lost Gahey, and Mateta might be injured, but they've got Strand Larsen. So I think Palace will be fine. I'm more confident about Palace now than I was a week ago. And of course, we have to remember with Sarr is that the first fixture is Brighton away, and last season he got 2 goals and an assist away at Brighton. So that sort of thing does matter in football to me. I often see these patterns, and your men like Trout and the Solio boys, they dismiss that sort of thing. I don't. But I might well dismiss Ismail Assar just because I think there's better options. And I mentioned Harry Wilson. He's had a great run, but it's not the right time for me. He's playing Everton. I own Tarkovsky. Then it's Man City and Sunderland away. 2 very tough games. So I'm happy to wait until game week 31 for Harry Wilson. So those are the options if I use one transfer. I like Elliot Anderson. I like Semenyo, and I have to accept that maybe Enzo Shelvey is a better option than I'm giving him credit for. Another option, though, is to use both free transfers that I've got. Now, I could, if I do that, bring in Brian Mbeumo, and he needs no discussion, really. He's a great option. Played the 90 against Fulham. He's in good form. He's got Spurs, West Ham and Everton as his next 3, which is a decent run. And of course, Man United only have the Premier League to focus on. They will be rested for every game. They have the load will be low, so the minutes should be high for Mbeumo. I think he's a great option, and one I'm very tempted by. The other one is Florian Wirtz. Now, the risk there is I've already got Ekitike, so it's a double Liverpool attack. But I don't mind that because I don't think many people will go there, and they have got a fantastic run of fixtures up until the wild card. Yes, Man City this weekend might not seem ideal, but Man City are no great shakes defensively. So even if they start Rodri, he is not the Rodri that won the Ballon d'Or. He's looking a bit washed if we're honest. And Wirtz, I'm sure I read over the last 9 game weeks, he is the top scoring player in the game. So he's got the form, he's got the fixtures. Is that the perfect storm for Florian Wirtz to come into the team and be that differential? Liverpool attack, double Liverpool attack. It seems wild, but these are wild times we live in. So maybe. Now, Cole Palmer, I did make the video about the high potential, the big differential, and it seems to have had a bit of an influence. Cause I'm seeing a lot of people talk about him now that weren't in before that, but I do understand the appeal. I really do, because it is there for me, but I can't justify ripping up my squad for Cole Palmer at this time. I'd have to sell Ekitike, I would say, probably for Krupi Jr. Now, that's not a bad move in itself, but I don't think Palmer outscores Ekitike either this week or until the wild card. So it's just not the move for me. I don't think it's worth it at this time. Yes, I do think Cole Palmer could go big. Yes, I think those who invest in him could be rewarded, but I have to choose which risks I engage with as I attempt to close this massive gap from 1.5 million to the top 100k. It's a big challenge, and I just don't think Cole Palmer is the man for me in my position. So if I do get Mbeumo or Wirtz, I will have to make the second transfer. And there's some good options. Now, I've talked about Lewis Hall earlier. Selling him, I don't want to, because he's so good. He's England's best left back, and he's still just a bairn. And it would mean no Newcastle players at all in my squad, but maybe that's what I need. Maybe this is the ruthlessness I need in my mindset at this time. Newcastle have just got so many tough games in such a short turnaround, so many injuries. Maybe it's the right move. I don't know. Now, if I did replace him, Senesi would be one of the top picks. He's got great fixtures until the wild card. He's so good for the DEFCONs. He's a lot of attacking threat as well, Senesi. I like him. I didn't really want him last week, but he has stayed at Bournemouth after the deadline. And of course, I believe his contract's up in the summer. So you've got to think he's going to kick it on over this next couple of months to try and secure that big move. I do like Senesi as an option. Joachim Anderson. I can hear D-Unit in the back of my head now having his little tantrum. But we have to be real. He's got decent fixtures. He's great in the blank game week 31 against Burnley, which is a big one because, if I'm carrying the empty bench, I need 11 starters, and a defender against Burnley is a great option. His DEFCON seem to have tailed off a little bit, Joachim Anderson, but he is a consideration. But one that is going under the radar a bit, who I am interested in, is Pascal Struijk from Leeds. Now, he has got Brentford at home in 31, which is not as good as Burnley, of course, but Struijk is only £4.3 million. That is a lot of money to free up from Lewis Hall, and that could be very handy. And Struijk, he's got a decent run of games, not spectacular, but decent enough that you can bench him and not worry. But also, he's got 7 DEFCON returns, 7 DEFCON bonuses in the last 9 games. And, he had a slow start to the season, but then Leeds have changed the formation, haven't they? And they're playing a different way. And since then, Struijk has absolutely dominated the DEFCONs. And you wouldn't think to look at him. But I did, because I was looking for the options. And I quite like it, I do. And there might even, the stars might align where Struijk takes a penalty. And can you imagine if that happened? You know, what a moment that would be. But maybe I am getting a bit ahead of myself. Maybe I am getting a little bit overexcited there. But if I get strike, then the option is, what do I do with the extra money? Because I could even take a hit and get Joao Pedro or Jared Bowen in for Igor Thiago. Now, it is a short-term play, but could it be worth it? I think so. Joao Pedro is a decent captaincy option this week and in game week 27 against Burnley. Like, why wouldn't I? I'm not planning on playing Thiago this week. I'm not planning on playing him next week. If I take the hit, can Joao Pedro outscore Thiago in 3 game weeks by 4 points? Say 8 points, because you obviously need to use a transfer to get him back. Thiago in 28. I mean, it's asking a lot, but he outscored him by 8 points in 45 minutes last week. So it's one to consider, especially if he's a captaincy option. So if I do that, I could bench strike Mukiele and Longstaff and play 3-4-3. Will that bring me more points? Perhaps. If, you know, I mean, it's you look at the team. If I do that, it's a lot stronger. You know, Timber, Gabriel, Tarkowski against Sunderland, Fulham, Henderson against Brighton, and Garner against Fulham, Bruno Fernandes against Spurs, Rice against Sunderland, and say Wirtz against Man City or Mbeumo against Spurs, and then Haaland, Ekitike and Joao Pedro up front. It's lovely. You know, that is a high points potential. But I don't know, it's just difficult, isn't it? It's hard, this game. If I do take the hit, if I do that, I mean, it does make team selection very easy for the next 3 weeks, and that's nice. Any time in this game we make it obvious for ourselves is a good thing. So, excuse me, that is something I am considering. Do I get Mbeumo or Wirtz if I take the hit? That's the big call. And Mbeumo has a better fixture this week. Wirtz has the better fixtures until the wild card. I don't know. I'd have to think. It's a big call, and I'm not going to throw it out there now. Probably leaning towards Wirtz. There you go. I've just thrown it out now. But I will give Bruno every chance. I will give Guimaraes every opportunity to make the team, because he would be my preference. But then why? Because of the rotation with Mukiele, of course. My cat's scratching at the door, so I wonder if that's a sign I need to get a move on, wrap this up. It's not a bad thing if Thiago does come in. If I have to go Mukiele deep, maybe I have to hope for Defcons, but I don't know. I feel like I do need to do something this week. And of course, when I'm thinking about all this, I have to factor in my Game Week 26 team too. Now, as it stands, Henderson in goal against Burnley, great. Timber, Gabriel, Rice against Brentford and Wolves, great. Tarkowski and Garner against Bournemouth, absolutely fine. Fernandes against West Ham, great. Ekitike against Sunderland, great. And Haaland against Fulham, if he plays, that could be great. The problem is, it's Hall and Bruno Guimaraes away at Spurs, which could be fine if, you know, Bruno's fit, but Newcastle's away form is so diabolical, you know. And then on the bench, it's Mukiele against Liverpool and Thiago against Arsenal, which aren't ideal. It's not good. And, you know, if I had instead Mbeumo against West Ham, then that looks a lot nicer. If I've got Joao Pedro against Leeds, again, that looks so much nicer. And, you know, strike on the bench is fine. I don't know. I feel like I have to do... the more I look at it, the more I feel like I have to make these transfers. I don't feel I can roll with it. I just don't know. We'll see. It is difficult. It's hard to justify the hold. However, that doesn't mean I have to make the transfers this week. And I do like, if he is fit, I do like Guimaraes against Brentford. And if Guimaraes is fit, I like Hall against Brentford as well. So I'll have to see what Eddie Howe says. You know, the notoriously open Eddie Howe. the thing is, you know, like it's, even if I do, you know, I can make these moves next week and save the hit. That's the other option. But then Joao Pedro, I've lost a great game. So, you know, I need to think. That's the long and short of it. I need a bit more think, but that's where I am at the minute. That is where my mindset is today, and these are the issues I'm thinking about. Let me know what you would do. Would you take that hit? Would you get in, strike Joao Pedro and Mbeumo or Wirtz for Thiago, Lewis Hall and Bruno Guimaraes? Let me know. What else would... Have I missed something? Let me know. You know, big names and great fixtures are exciting, as are transfers in this game. But maybe something as simple as Longstaff to Anderson solves all my issues. Maybe that is all I need to do. Bring in Elliot Anderson for Sean Longstaff and strengthen my squad for this run. I mean, Anderson just keeps getting points. And Leeds and Wolves are two great games to come into, you know. Guimaraes to Jonjo Fernandez is probably the sensible move, but I do just have that resistance to it for some reason. I am tempted by the hit, I can't lie, and it does upend the long-term plan, but maybe that's what I need to do, you know? Waiting for jam tomorrow is no good if when tomorrow comes, the bread has gone mouldy. And I need to ask myself if this team, if my squad has gone mouldy and I need to get the new fresh bread in. That's what I've got to think about until the deadline. It's a Friday deadline. Don't forget, 6:30 p.m, I believe. Thanks for watching. We will see you next time.